Question: how do you get found online in the crowd that is now nearly 5 billion strong? So today, our next step is all about communities and the crowd. And we're going to talk about building a community. Hey, I'm John Harris, and this is the Exponential Entrepreneur Academy, coming to you live from our digital studio. Just a recap before I answer that question. We're really in a triangle when we talk about our Exponential Entrepreneur Academy. At the top of the triangle, the top of the pyramid, is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur and how that entrepreneur can grow and have maximum impact. Then we have the enterprise, the exponential enterprise. That's what we're discussing a little bit about now, is the basic setup and the differences of an exponential enterprise as compared to a normal organization, a brick and mortar. The other side is the expert, preferably an authority, somebody who's developing something that other people become an expert in. And here we want to look about how you're going to get your reach and how you're going to become a knowledge broker to dispense that knowledge and make money at the same time. When we discuss the crowd and community, last episode we talked about staff on demand, and that falls under the two sides of the equation. One, remember, is the creativity, which we're talking about now, and the other is the control. And under the creativity, we spoke about staff on demand. We're talking now about the crowd and community. We're going to talk about leveraged assets, algorithms, and we're going to talk about how to get engagement. So those are in the creative area. So let's just get into answering some of the questions. How do we tap into a large group of enthusiasts? So when a lot of people try to get found online and try to create interest, let's look at an area where there are already a lot of enthusiasts, where a lot of people gather you a lot of interest, and spin our own perspective on that. Now, if you build something that's relevant and you put it into the public domain, you don't have to go and look for people. People will find you. You get that result and people come to you. It's a much better way of doing things. So the next thing we want to look at is, boom, you'll have this community. And if we look back in time, if we look back to humanity, to the journey we've taken and how this all came about, we used to be on the African plains and we had a tribe. And obviously as we expanded into the rest of the world. So the tribe really was the community that we talked about. Then we started becoming more ideological, more thought processes, and we built religions, etc. We then moved on to civic administrations, and specifically under monarchies, where we have kingdoms. From there, we've now moved on to governments. And, obviously, the community now is the party, whichever party is relevant to you. The internet is building trait-based communities. So we're looking at specific traits, people of specific interests, and those traits are being developed within groups. Look, let me tell you a story about my son. He has always been an online gamer. He's a Z-Genner, and one of the people he follows, he's subscribed to, is PewDiePie, who has 100 million subscribers on YouTube. Think about it. Think about the power of the advertisement revenue he's getting, the sponsorship, his merch he's putting out there. Huge. Okay, so he's formed a massive community, and just out of interest, that a lot of the times, the Z-Genners are quantified as retweeters or sitting on Instagram complaining and do nothing. However, look at the power of what they're doing now for replanting of trees. They're trying to do 20 million trees, which they'll achieve. And they've got people like Elon Musk. They've got people like PewDiePie. They've got a lot of top people who are younger Z-Genners who are all coming in to get donations, $1 a tree, and they're going through, it's teamtrees.org. So if you're interested, just transparency, I've got nothing to do with it. I'm just mentioning it's a really good movement, something that's going on. But that's the power. They're going to plant 20 million trees. I think it's in a couple of months or something they're looking to do it. Some crazy figure. And that's the power of these kind of movements, the power of these communities. that are generated through the platform of engagement that is done by the people who are in positions of authority. I hope that resonates a bit. So the community, look, as it exists, you can have your core team, which comprise perhaps of your visionary, your technologist, and somebody who's on the marketing, who's an engager. And then within that area, you're going to have your former members, perhaps, and you'll look at partners, vendors, your suppliers, customers, users, and some of the fans, some of the fanatics. The crowd then moves out to being the rest. So you've got those intrinsic circles, concurrent circles of expansion out from the core team, and then you move out to the crowd. Now the crowd, is the rest of the connected planet, but specifically people that be interested in what you are developing or what you are as your main core product or what you are trying to achieve. So it's tougher to get hold of these people, but obviously the numbers make sense. You have 3 steps when you build a community and around an exponential enterprise. The first one we've mentioned before is the MTP, that massively transformative purpose. It is key into what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it and how many people will come on board. I mentioned planting these trees. It's a massively transformative purpose. They're trying to lessen the carbon footprint in the globe. They need more trees as filters, and they're going to plant 20 million trees. So we can all make a difference. So that massively transformative purpose attracts people, it attracts suppliers, it attracts money, and it gets things done. Then you want to make sure that you nurture that community. It's no good at building this massively transformative purpose and they're not nurturing. And I'm talking about nurturing from the CEOs, the top coordinators, chief operating executives, people that get involved, that are directly involved, those visions being directly involved in the community, in nurturing the community, keeping it motivated, having a movement. And last but not least is to create that platform. And the platform is obviously to automate the engagement, that people can come in at any time of day or night, can be part of this through that platform. And you have various companies that are doing this. I mean, you've got Airbnb, various Uber, various platforms that do this kind of things as a commercial entity. Look, let's understand this. Facebook could have created its own Instagram. It obviously has the technology to do such a thing. So why would it spend $1 billion? Why would it buy it? It's for exactly this reason we're talking about. It had a huge community, a lot of people using it, and they immediately acquired that community. So these are things that you need to understand with the power of community and the value of the community. The crowd is slightly different, as you mentioned. It is harder to reach because it's spread out, and you need to attract and repel the right type of people out of the crowd. Obviously the numbers are huge, so that's why it makes it so intriguing. And it's all pull-based, inbound. So you're trying to look at the creativity and innovation. There are platforms you can do for that, like CrowdTap. There's a lot of platforms that you can look at innovation, and there's other things that you can do is validation. So to get validation, you can start to use, you're going to look at measurements. You look at Google AdWords. There are a lot of measurement platforms out there that can help as far as the validation of things. And then you're looking at your crowdsourcing, where you can do crowdfunding. You can things like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, these types of platforms where you can raise funds. So really, the things that held back normal brick and mortar, like funding, resources, getting people to work for you, freelancers, getting problems solved, going out to do, for example, the X Prize, where Virgin Galactic took over the successful relaunchable rocket for traveling, space travel as a commercial idea. So those were done through prizes, and they're very powerful for solving problems. So a lot of the things you have in business with a normal brick and mortar, they are subcontracting and getting done from the crowd. Remember, the crowd that becomes a community, but the crowd itself is really an interim step to AI. And I'm talking, I'm talking about the singularity, the real power of AI when it reaches its real power. So not general or narrow AI, super AI. So these are things that we need to bear in mind when we're talking about the crowd and the community, the power of the community as an interim step, and how we're going to go about building our organizations, our new types of platforms, and how this will all work. The next thing we need to understand is a lot up to now has been internal as opposed to external. New companies are now external, whereas before they were internal. Okay, so that's a little bit about the crowd. What I'd like to do is just let you know that you can come pop in next week as always. Come and check the next episode. And if you sort of entered now, you can always go back and look at some of that and listen to some of the other episodes. And we will see you next time.